Breaking tonight, angry new fallout after the man who's been called America's mayor touches off a fierce debate by saying Black Lives Matter is racist. Here's former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, followed by Black Lives Matter leader DeRay McKesson.
When you say Black Lives Matter, that's inherently racist.
Well, I think their
Black
argument
Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, Hispanic Lives Matter. That's anti-American and it's racist. So if you want to deal with this on the black side, you've got to teach your children to be respectful to the police.
His statements remind us that he is both a disgrace to the country and an embarrassment. He is deflecting so that we are not engaged in a conversation about the abuses that the police inflict on communities of color time and time again.
Want to bring back our panel, a special group tonight. All right, let me just start because I think Sergeant Ed Mullins, you may have some thoughts on this. NYPD Sergeants Benevolent Association. Rudy Giuliani's gotten a lot of pushback on this already. He's made similar comments in the past. Was he out of line with that comment?
I think
in the front.
Being said is, I think Rudy's highlighting an issue that we see from law enforcement, and we could look at Chicago, we could look at the city of Baltimore when we see the riots and burning down your own community from the perspective of all lives matter. See, as law enforcement, all lives do matter. And Rudy's saying that, and, you know, we're going to talk about, you know, Black Lives Matter. We should be talking about how everyone's life matter. The clip you played in the very beginning of the shooter in Dallas, his dad, if you have children, whether we agree with what he did or not, there's a father who's heartbroken right now for what his son did. And you can take that man and translate him into the families of the police officers, the families of the individuals that were shot in Louisiana and Minnesota, or anyone who's had a child that was murdered. You know, we've had dozens and dozens of children in the city of Chicago under the ages of 12 years old that were murdered. And we're not talking about that.
Well, that's what Mayor Giuliani was saying. Black Lives Matter. Mayor Giuliani was saying that Black Lives Matter only cares when the black life that's taken is taken by a white police officer. That was his point. Wait a minute. Okay, in the back. Go ahead, Pastor Mark Burns.
Yes. Well, first of all, I've said that, and I know it's extremely controversial, but the fact of the matter is, it seems like black lives don't really matter until a black life is killed by a white cop. Because the fact of the matter is not so much what black or what white cops do to the black community, but what do us as black people do to our own community. That's a fact.
Go ahead, in the front.
Giuliani brought in
Wesley West. Sorry, in the front, Wesley West.
With all due respect to the pastor, I'm a pastor myself, but I will say you have to be involved in the Black Lives Matter movement to understand. It is not a moment, but it's a movement. Here it is. Check this out. We are talking about the black community is rebuilding itself here, loving itself, not just against white people, but they're dealing with issues within themselves. So let's not just talk about we're just Black Lives Matter as if we're just
Let me ask you. One of the things that got some people alienated against Black Lives Matter was the chanting that we saw after right around the time the 2 New York City cops got executed. Well, before that, it was, what do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them now? And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that at every Black Lives Matter at all. Go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead.
I have to address this. Everyone wants to deflect when we're getting blown in the head with bullets, chased down in the streets, choked when we can't breathe, by saying, I'll let you speak, by saying that blacks are killing blacks. Hold on, let me finish.
Let her finish. Let Lisa finish.
Everybody always says when we get shot in the head and when we're killed in the streets, but blacks are killing each other. Number one, oh, you want to kill us too? Number two, let's be real clear. Racism and murder in your community is interracial. 87% of all the white murders happen in the white community, perpetrated by whites. It's no different than our community, but you just see us on TV doing it. All communities murder each other. It's interracial. So don't try to deflect.
Go ahead. In the back.
Don't try to deflect.
The fact is that Black Lives Matter is a racial, radical, evil organization. They are worse than the KKK.
Wait, let him have his say.
They are worse than the KKK. black Americans who are suffering are not suffering because of racism. They are suffering because they are growing up without fathers and mothers in the home, and these kids are first being made angry in the home about that. And rather than dealing with that anger,
Let him finish. Go ahead.
Rather than dealing with that anger, they go out into the community and they have people like Jesse Jackson and the NAACP, Barack Obama, and others telling them it's the white man. And when you're already angry, it's hard to believe the truth.
We're going to talk about Barack Obama in a minute, but I want Chris Hahn. You had your hand up, right there. Yeah, go ahead, Chris Hahn.
I'm trying to go back to Giuliani, and I think what he says reflects a fundamental problem white America has with understanding racism in America. They see a black president and they say, like a broken arm, it's healed. Exactly. Unfortunately, racism is like alcoholism. It is there under the surface. It is always there. We need to be vigilant to watch out for it. And the Black Lives Matter movement is not asking you to choose between black and white lives. It's asking you to acknowledge this racism that is fundamentally exists in America.
Go ahead, Michael Oppenheimer.
Part of the problem is that this has been going on for decades and decades and decades. In Chicago especially, you have a history of the police department. A panel appointed by Rahm Emanuel found there's inherent racism. There's also a lack of accountability. You have for years and years and years, not just shootings, but planted drugs, false stops, verbal and physical abuse of people that are pulled over. You have false traffic stops without probable cause. This has been hidden and covered up for years and years and years. It is only when there is a shooting that we hear about this. I have hundreds of cases where this has happened, and it's gone on and on and on. And then when this happens, so we need better training of police officers. We need psychological training so they can deal with mentally ill people. Recently, a person was shot swinging a bat far away from a police officer.
Okay. And then we'll talk about whether anything needs to happen, with the constituents, with the crime rate, with the fatherless families, whether that plays any role, as we just heard, alleged. Wait, and we'll do that right after this commercial break. We've got to pay the bills.